And I've pledged to Republican voters, if you nominate me, I will be taking the oath of office on January 20th, 2025.
After the first full weekend of his presidential campaign, how his career in politics got started before being launched into the national spotlight tonight at Fox 4 News at 10.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 10.
But first, we begin with a traffic alert in Collier County we want to make sure you know about. The sheriff's office there says deputies are responding to a vehicle crash right near the Naples airport. This is right at Airport Road and Poinsettia Avenue. As our traffic sensors are showing you right now, you can see all northbound lanes and 2 southbound lanes are closed at this hour. So deputies are asking you to drive carefully if you're in the area or if you know someone traveling in that area. And if you can, they say to find an alternate route if possible.
So today is a day to reflect on those that made the ultimate sacrifice, because if you don't have people that are willing to do that, then you really can't have a free society.
Governor DeSantis staying in Florida today, speaking at the Veterans Memorial Ceremony in Jacksonville. It comes ahead of stops in swing states, including Iowa and New Hampshire, as soon as this week. DeSantis announced on Twitter last week that he is running for president. The governor's rise to the national stage came over the course of the last few years, fueled by his policy decisions during the pandemic and his controversial legislation governing education. Governor De La Cruz gives us a look back at the big moments in his life and his time in office.
Ron DeSantis is a Florida native, born in Jacksonville and a graduate of Dunedin High School. Before his political career, he went to Yale, Harvard Law, and served as a JAG officer in the U.S. Navy. DeSantis stepped into GOP politics in 2012, representing Florida's 6th congressional district in the U.S. House. In 2018, he entered a contentious race for the governor's mansion.
This election does matter. I mean, it's going to have consequences. They all have consequences, but this one, I think, more than others.
Narrowly beating Democratic candidate Andrew Gillum by 0.4%. The razor-thin margin underscoring Florida's reputation as a battleground state. In his first term, he tackled environmental issues, securing millions to restore and protect Florida waterways, coral reefs, and the Everglades. Come 2020, DeSantis entered the national spotlight for what he called keeping Florida open during the pandemic.
We are not going to let people be fired because of a vaccine mandate.
His strong stance against lockdowns and requirements for masks and vaccines fueled heated debates at school board meetings across our state. In 2021, he went on to give bonuses to teachers and first responders, led relief efforts for the Surfside collapse, and introduced the Stop Woke Act, banning some race-related topics from being taught in schools.
We have an ability to just draw a line in the sand and say that's not the type of society that we want here in the state of Florida. We want people treated equally. We don't want ideology.
In 2022, the governor restricted conversations over sexuality and gender in schools with what critics call the Don't Say Gay law. Disney openly criticized that law, leading to an ongoing feud over who controls the company's special taxing district. DeSantis signed a bill limiting abortions to 15 weeks, ousted a Democratic state prosecutor, and paid to relocate migrants to Massachusetts.
Our view is you got to deal with it at the source, and if they're intending to come to Florida, or many of them are intending to come to Florida, that's our best way to make sure that they end up in a sanctuary.
By fall, Hurricanes Ian and Nicole would devastate Florida, leaving communities from coast to coast underwater. DeSantis deployed a cavalry, restoring power, rebuilding infrastructure, and securing more than $1 billion in resilience funding. That response would send him sailing into re-election just weeks later.
Thank you very much.
Defeating opponent Charlie Crist by nearly 20 points and flipping blue counties red. Since being re-elected, he's signed a permitless carry bill, reignited his fight with Disney, and slashed abortion restrictions from 15 to 6 weeks. The governor released an autobiography and toured it around the country, touting his aggressive conservative agenda and no-nonsense political posture. Despite months and even years of speculation, the most powerful man in Florida staying mum on a run for the White House until now.
I'm Jennifer De La Cruz.
Give you a look at some of the big stories across Florida this evening, including this. An investigation is underway in St. Petersburg right now after police say a father shot and killed his 2-year-old son on Sunday. St. Pete police say this happened Sunday. They say 22-year-old Aaron Creary got into an argument with his parents, pulled out a gun. It went off, then hitting his toddler son Armani. Investigators say Creary tried to drive his son to the hospital, but crashed on the way. Another person ended up taking the child to the hospital, and that is where he later died. Police are investigating right now, and they haven't said if they believe Creary intentionally shot his son or not.
This is just a very sad situation for whatever occurred to have ended up with a baby, really a 2-year-old boy getting hurt and getting shot by this type of gun violence. Is very, very sad.
Creary was charged with manslaughter and violating probation. Well, according to Carfax, of the more than 2.5 million vehicles that are on the road with urgent safety recalls, Florida, gets this, has the 3rd most in the country. That includes warnings of do not drive or park outside away from building. Our Jackie Calloway with our Script station WFTS in Tampa explains how you can check for an open recall on your car.
A new warning from Carfax about potentially dangerous vehicles kicks off the summer driving season.
These are very urgent recalls, and there are 2.5 million of these cars driving unfixed today on American roads, and there's 237,000 of those in Florida alone.
Carfax labels urgent recalls as those rides with warnings such as do not drive or park outside away from a building. The alert involves 200 different models. Florida ranks 3rd in the number of these vehicles on the road.
I was completely unaware until it affected me.
Christine McGuire-Wolf drove one of those recalled vehicles.
I don't think I can accurately describe how quickly it went up.
In Christine's case, the notice regarding a fire risk arrived in the mail days after she narrowly escaped her Kia SUV when it burst into flames with her behind the wheel.
It went up almost instantly.
But most often, drivers either ignore, overlook, or just don't get the warning automakers send only by mail.
I think today, unfortunately, there's too many consumers who get these notices and think they're marketing scams. They think they're extended warranty scams.
There are approximately 50 million cars, trucks, and SUVs riding America's highways with an unrepaired recall. More than 3 million of them are located right here in Florida. And about 700,000 of these vehicles are registered in Tampa Bay. The overall number could soon explode. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is calling for the immediate recall of 67 million airbag inflators due to a dangerous defect. Still, Carfax estimates only 25% of drivers respond to recall notices.
It's a little heartbreaking to see that many go unfixed year after year after year.
It takes less than 2 minutes to check if your car is on the recall list, and it's free. Just log on to the website safercar.gov and plug in your VIN, or download the free Carfax Car Care mobile app.
It will tell you immediately whether or not you have an unfixed recall.
I'm Jackie Calloway.
Well, taking a look across the nation tonight, a 6-story apartment building complex in Davenport, partially collapsed yesterday. And so far, there are no confirmed fatalities. This is what we know. Search and rescue crews worked through the night looking for potential survivors or victims. We do know at least 8 people were rescued from this building. Look at this, including one person who was pulled from the rubble overnight. The cause of the collapse is not clear, but city officials say the building had been inspected in recent years for both complaints and routine inspections. Well, Russia's government has issued an arrest warrant for Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. The move comes after an edited video was released showing comments from the South Carolina senator in support of Ukraine's effort in fighting back against the Russian invasion. Senator Graham's comments were from his meeting on Friday with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, whose office released that video. Now, this comes after Russia announced a ban of 500 Americans from the country, including former President Barack Obama, as well as 45 U.S. House members and 3 senators. Well, as we kick off the unofficial start to summer, cities across the country are facing a lifeguard shortage, and they really have been for years. Wyatt Werneth with the American Lifeguard Association believes the job actually just lacks popularity these days. He says the pandemic depleted already shrinking rosters back in 2020, and that numbers have struggled in the summers since then. So some communities are now taking proactive measures like a $3,000 incentive in Phoenix, Arizona, and a junior training program in Nashville, Tennessee. Werneth says the focus on the younger generation has already shown progress in other parts of the world, like Australia.
And they start training their young individuals to be what they call nippers. And that is, they come out into elementary school and they start learning surf rescue, ocean confidence, swimming at a young age.
Werneth believes teaching kids about water safety and introducing them to the idea of lifeguarding at a young age can really help turn the tide. Well, get this, according to a global nonprofit that tracks sharks around the world, sharks are making their annual migration from Florida up the eastern coast of the United States. O-Search says swimmers headed out into the Atlantic Ocean waters off of New York and New Jersey might want to keep an eye out, as 4 great white sharks have been spotted in the area over the last month. Well, still to come here on Fox 4 News at 10 on this Memorial Day weekend, there are tributes around the country to fallen war heroes. But what about those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in Iraq and Afghanistan? We have an update on the plan to build a national memorial to the global war on terror. Andrew?
If you're looking to get out in the boat tomorrow, look at seas 1 to 2 feet. Light chop those inland waterways. Gulf temperature 84 degrees. I'll break down when we can expect rain chances return. That coming up.
Well, there's a good chance on this Memorial Day, when you think of Americans who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in recent years, you might think of those who lost their lives in Afghanistan or Iraq. However, there remains no national memorial to the global war on terror, even though an effort to build one actually started more than 8 years ago. Our Joe St. George provides an update on why the process is taking so long and when one could be completed.
Memorials to fallen war heroes are always powerful, but especially so on Memorial Day weekend. For years, the fallen from wars like the war in Vietnam and the war in Korea have been remembered on the National Mall and in communities around the country. But what about those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in Iraq or Afghanistan? Well, it turns out building a national memorial is easier said than done. The United States has now been out of Iraq and out of Afghanistan for nearly 2 years. Conflicts that began over 20 years ago. 7,000 plus service members have died in post 9/11 operations. And while across the country in cities like Hermitage, Pennsylvania and Kokomo, Indiana, there are small tributes to the global war on terror, on the National Mall in Washington so far, a national memorial does not exist. Michael Rodriguez, the CEO of the Global War on Terrorism Memorial Foundation, explains why.
We had to seek an exemption from a law that says a war has to be over for a period of 10 years in order for a national war memorial to be built.
Rodriguez says in 2015, he and others began trying to convince lawmakers to change the law, an effort which ultimately resulted in then-President Donald Trump granting an exemption in 2017. 6 years later, though, in Washington, there is still no memorial. Ground has yet to be broken.
And it's an incredibly complex process. The way I describe what we do is, if I want you to imagine a public piece of civic art that everybody has input on land you cannot buy, with 20 layers of bureaucracy and politics.
Rodriguez tells us, however, that the land has been selected just north of the Lincoln Memorial. But to get approval to use that land, it required another law, which President Biden signed in 2021. To make things even more complicated, Rodriguez says taxpayer money will not be used. $100 million will need to be raised.
I hope everyone understands this is our nation's front lawn. There's a process.
Currently, Rodriguez says they're on steps 13 through 19. An architect is expected to be announced later this summer, who will then be tasked with design. While the memorial may be similar in some ways to existing ones, Rodriguez hopes this tribute feels different.
I can name 54 friends of mine that never came home. So I wanted to be able to grasp, to honor everybody that served.
The goal right now is to formally dedicate the Global War on Terrorism Memorial sometime in 2027, 12 years from the time this process all began. And if you are wondering if all this work for a memorial is worth it, those who were at the Korean War Memorial in Washington recently tell us yes. Sky wasn't alive in the 1950s, but thanks to this place, he's learning about it.
It's horrible history. People died because of the war.
Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
Trust Joe to keep you updated on its progress. So from Washington to back here in Southwest Florida, where one thing we do know, the weather was perfect this weekend, as we bring in Fox Shipley. Andrew, I went to the beach and I was like, this is why we live here. It's perfect.
It really couldn't have been better. This weekend, we got really lucky with that storm system across the Carolinas. It sucked in all that dry air across Florida for us and kept us nice and dry. And even dry here tonight. We do expect partly cloudy skies the next couple hours. Let's take a look outside, actually. In fact, it is just a gorgeous night out there. I was just outside a little while ago. Humidity is down. Temperatures, again, cooling off into the 70s, about 73 degrees or so here through the overnight hours. But get ready for another toasty day tomorrow. 92 degrees, Fort Myers, Punta Gorda, 89 there in Naples, even inland, 85 out towards the Lake Moorhaven and Lewiston. Though you add in humidity, feels like temperatures in spots, feeling like 97, say Golden Gate, LaBelle, 94, 93 in the Cape. So if you're spending any time outdoors tomorrow, plenty of water, take breaks, maybe find the air conditioner for a half hour, then go back outside. Now, if you're looking to go to the beach, though, tomorrow, looking like a good day there as well, though. West winds about 5 to 10, 1 foot or less, low rip current risk, but we will be watching a low chance for some thunderstorms up near the beaches, so I will be watching that. Otherwise, not a bad day in terms of temperatures. Captiva, for example, 86 degrees. How about 87 Sanibel? But again, the further south you get, I think the better chances for those showers and storms. Say Naples, Marco Island there as well. So let me time it out for you here. 7 o'clock in the morning, mostly sunny skies to start the day, and then you get in towards about 1 o'clock, and that's when we'll be watching isolated showers up along the coastline, up along I-75, and then those will be pushing inland through the 3 o'clock hour. I do expect the highest storm coverage to be Glades, Henry, Collier County, and Lee County. Through the evening hours, so drier conditions off to the north there, but we can see even some pushback towards the coastline as we get in towards about 6, 7 o'clock with some outflow boundaries. So we'll be watching that for you, but it does look like the majority of the rain will be south, but some spots localized could pick up about an inch or so. So we'll be watching the return of some rain for you on Tuesday. Now, rain chances will start to increase, though, as we move to the next couple of days. 70% chance on Wednesday. Thursday is going to be the wettest day of the week, especially there in the afternoon hours. 90% chance of rain, and then backs off as we get towards the weekend to get another round of some drier air. So let me show you what's going on here. So area of low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico is going to cross the state. And then this is not something tropically we have to worry about, but it is going to be bringing that instability as it crosses the state. And then once it moves away, like this last one, pulls that drier air back in as we move into early next week here. So, but speaking of tropics, again, hurricane season does start this week. Good news is no tropical development is expected over the next 7 days. But remember, hurricane season does start on June 1st. That's Thursday this week. Now, 7-day forecast, again, looking at, again, scattered showers and storms for you on Tuesday. Best chance of rain for the week is going to be on Thursday. And then as that low moves away, lowering rain chances as we head in towards next weekend.
Well, just ahead on Fox 4 News at 11, a local Vietnam veteran lost his home to a fire this Memorial Day weekend. How many times neighbors said he went back inside to try and save everything that he could. Plus, it was a more difficult Memorial Day weekend for a local family who lost their son in a military helicopter crash. How they're remembering Aaron Healy tonight. And Memorial Day brought more visitors to Fort Myers Beach as the town is still recovering after Ian. If you went out there, you saw sights like these, people out there having a really good time enjoying the beach. The businesses that were able to welcome customers back this weekend, we're speaking to a few of them. And if you didn't make it out to the beach, we're bringing you video from what so many people enjoyed coming up on Fox 4 News at 11. We hope to see you then. It's a Memorial Day one local Vietnam veteran will have burned into his mind, but for all the wrong reasons. What's left of a 72-year-old war hero's home after a fire during the weekend. Plus, the pain of losing a loved one in the military felt right here in Cape Coral tonight.
Everywhere we go, there's memories because he was born here, he grew up here.
The parents of Aaron Healy sharing more about him tonight after he died in a helicopter crash earlier this year. And a look at the roads as you head home this holiday weekend, and what to keep in mind about your commute as you return to work.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 11.
As it is for so many of you, the pain of his loss is with us every day, but particularly sharp on Memorial Day.
President Joe Biden marking Memorial Day by taking the time to remember those who died serving our country. He visited Arlington National Cemetery today, where flags were placed on the nearly 400,000 gravestones of veterans buried there. Biden also laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Thank you for trusting Fox 4 News at 11. I'm Shari Armstrong, and for many veterans, seeing combat is not the only battle they've faced. In fact, tonight, a Vietnam veteran living in a Golden Gate is now without a home after losing his to a fire over the weekend. Fox 4's Brianna Brownlee gives us a look at all of this damage. Bree?
71-year-old Vietnam veteran Donald Klein stood in this very spot as he watched flames engulf his home. He told me all he could think about was 30 years of memories that was destroyed as flames ripped through his house. Now, when we hear from Donald, you will hear that he is hoarse and raspy. That's because that night he was screaming for help. Donald Klein is a Vietnam veteran.
I thought it came through the wall.
Who shows me all that used to be here.
But then I had nice furniture and everything.
Most of what's left here now, memories. Donald says while completing paperwork and preparing to eat, he saw the beginning of a Memorial Day weekend he will never forget.
When I lived there, I stood there, I seen a red flame.
Immediately choosing to save what he could.
Many times I've been around dangerous places. I got panicked.
Maria Cardoso, who lived across the street from Donald for 24 years, shared these videos with Fox 4.
It was a big fire, and more than anything, I was scared about him.
She tells me she watched him go back inside the house 3 times.
And I told him, please don't go inside.
Sadly, Donald lost his home, his gun collection, and all of his cash. But at least he's safe. Maria says it's unfortunate that this happened to him.
He's a very nice guy, you know. If you need something, he's there.
Now, Donald did tell me that he will stay on his property and he does have somewhere to stay. As for what the cause of the fire was, it's still under investigation. In Golden Gate, Brianna Brownlee, Fox 4.
Brianna, and this really is a significant Memorial Day weekend for so many, including for one family in Cape Coral. They lost their son, 32-year-old Warrant Officer 1, Aaron Healy. He died earlier this year when 2 Blackhawks collided in Fort Campbell, Kentucky during training. And Fox 4's Caitlin Knapp spoke with his family today about how they are remembering their son and their soldier.
Memorial Day is a day where we take the time to reflect on those who lost their lives for our country, who fought for our country. And for one family here in Cape Coral, it's a day they're not only remembering, but mourning, as they lost their son, Aaron Healy, back in March.
For some, today's about remembering those who made the ultimate sacrifice, even if you don't know anyone who served. For others,
today, Memorial Day brings unfortunate new meaning to this particular family.
The Healys. Warrant Officer 1 Aaron Healy died in March in a helicopter crash.
Everywhere we go, there's memories because he was born here, he grew up here. It makes me feel like he's still here.
Places where his parents, Vicky and Michael, now reflect on the good times with Aaron and his brother.
We started a list of things you should never have to say.
Aaron, don't put your fork in your brother's nose.
It was an adventure, for sure, with those two.
An adventure, now memories.
I just remember things everywhere we go.
Memories they reminisce over as they sit here at the Memorial Day ceremony in Cape Coral.
We decided we wanted to come up here, and we didn't expect all of this.
Many speakers talking about Aaron, his sacrifice, and the family he leaves behind.
He grew up to be a very sweet and caring person to everyone in his family and friends.
And when I asked their happiest memory of Aaron,
The day he was born.
a day they will always cherish. And Memorial Day, another day where they will always remember their son, Aaron Healy. Reporting in Cape Coral, Caitlin Knapp, Fox 4.
And we will always remember Aaron and those who have served our country. Thank you, Caitlin. Well, as the holiday weekend wraps up, millions of Americans are hitting the roads again to head home. Many people chose to drive this weekend. In fact, AAA says of the more than 42 million Americans traveling for Memorial Day weekend, more than 37 million drove. Also, a heads up, Friday marked the busiest day on the road this holiday weekend, but you might hit traffic tomorrow too. AAA says the worst times normally fall between 4 and 6 p.m. So that's why experts say hit the road before 2 p.m. or after 6 if you can. And a heads up if you're normally traveling back from work during that time. And speaking of our roadways, the Collier County Sheriff's Office says deputies are responding to a vehicle crash near the Naples Airport right now. This is right at Airport Road and Poinsettia Avenue. You can see here all northbound lanes and 2 southbound lanes are closed. Deputies are asking you to drive carefully if you're in that area and to find an alternate route if possible. We're working to get you the latest on this crash. We'll stay on top of it. You can trust Fox 4 to keep you updated. And the Florida Highway Patrol is investigating a 5-vehicle crash in Collier County that left one person hurt and caused major backups earlier this evening. Troopers say it happened on I-75 South near mile marker 61 around 5:15 this evening. They say both northbound and southbound lanes were blocked but are now back open. Well, one thing we know is that we had beautiful weather here in Southwest Florida this weekend. I hope you got a chance to get out and enjoy it as we bring in Fox 4 meteorologist Andrew Shipley. A wonderful weekend here, Andrew.
It really was, and I don't think many of us could have asked for much better than this for Memorial Day weekend, that long weekend, the unofficial start of summer, but we all know it's endless summer down here in Southwest Florida. But Fort Myers hitting 92 today, 90 Punta Gorda, 88 in Naples for you, though still seeing it this hour in the low 80s, 81 degrees in fact in the Cape, but clear skies for us at this hour. What we are going to be tracking though is that radar a lot more filled up the next couple of days. I'll break down our rain chances. That coming up.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and we are working to keep you updated both on air and online as well. Keeping an eye on our roadways, we want to let you know also ahead of the week, the Wisner Desmarais was sentenced to life in prison without parole back in April, and he was the man convicted of killing a Fort Myers police officer 5 years ago. He's going to be back in court tomorrow after a jury found him guilty of first-degree murder for killing Officer Adam Jobbers Miller back in 2018. Desmarais chose to represent himself during trial but had an attorney on standby. Well, now he's arguing the court should not have found him competent to stand trial or represent himself. Desmarais is now requesting a new trial or to be acquitted. His hearing is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon at 1:30. Also, look at this. A car crashed into this home today, leading to a fire. As you see here, the Lehigh Acres Fire District says it happened this afternoon right near Leland Heights Boulevard and Richmond Avenue in Lehigh. Fire crews say the crash caused another car in the yard as well as the home to catch on fire. Luckily, they say nobody was inside that was hurt, but they say someone in the car was taken to the hospital. Also, take a look at this scary scene in Volusia County over the weekend. The sheriff's office says a driver was speeding down the beach in Smyrna Dunes Park and plowed into the water on Saturday. Did you see this? Deputies say the car got close to several families and their dogs, almost even hitting a child. The driver, 26-year-old Sarah Ramsamy, told officers she was trying to turn around but didn't think she could do a U-turn, so she kept going. She was charged with a DUI and reckless driving. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Well, Florida Fish and Wildlife say they arrested a Cape Coral man for boating under the influence over the weekend. They say someone reported it around 5 on Saturday evening. They say they saw a 25-foot boat driving recklessly right near Picnic Island, causing a passenger to be thrown into the water. FWC officers say they stopped the boat at the mouth of the Caloosahatchee River and confirmed that the passenger was not hurt. But they did arrest the driver, 54-year-old Darren Castor, for driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Also around 5 Saturday evening, Florida Highway Patrol says they arrested a 19-year-old Naples driver for racing another car on I-75 and crashing. Troopers say Alan Bustillo Nunez was driving faster than 120 miles per hour right near Bonita Beach Road when he crashed into 2 other cars. Troopers say nobody was hurt, but now Bustillo Nunez is charged with reckless driving and racing on a highway. Well, the holiday weekend bringing more foot traffic to Fort Myers Beach. Of course, this is a welcome sight following Hurricane Ian and all of its destruction. But many people soaked in the sun at the beach and grabbed a bite to eat at local businesses that we're seeing finally open up 8 months after the storm. That includes favorites like, Yucatan Beach Stand and Wahoo Willie's. Also, you might have seen Pink Shell Resort's Octopool also opened up just in time for the holiday weekend. And developments like the Margaritaville Resort are still underway, hoping to open later this year. Others on Fort Myers Beach spent the day cleaning up leftover hurricane debris on their property. The town recently extended the debris collection deadline to give residents more time. Crews are making their last pass to pick up debris, and then after that, you could face code compliance violations.
With the deadline coming up, we wanted to make sure we got as much out as we could. So we've been going through the yard, scraping things up, finding things still buried under there, putting them out and getting ready to hopefully get as much out as we can before the deadline.
Tomorrow's deadline only applies to side streets and Estero Boulevard north of the Matanzas Pass Bridge. It does not apply to those signed up for debris removal on personal property through iandebriscleanup.com. Well, still to come here on Fox 4 News at 11, crisis averted. Almost. The White House reached a deal to raise the nation's debt ceiling, but now Congress has to approve. So coming up, how long lawmakers have before the deadline and how the process could impact your Social Security benefits. And if you spent the holiday weekend on the East Coast, you might have seen this. Sargassome's back. We're answering whether it's harmful to humans and where the seaweed belt might show up next, Andrew.
Yeah, that's right, Shari. But tomorrow, unfortunately, or fortunately, is a school day. We are looking at sunny skies in the morning, afternoon showers and storms. I'll time out those storm chances for you. Plus, the latest on the tropics. We'll have all the details on what you can expect through the work week. Those coming up.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 11.
Well, with just days to spare, President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy reached a final agreement to raise the nation's debt ceiling. Now, the work is to gain enough support to pass the bill before the nation defaults on its debt on June 5th. That is a week from tomorrow. A vote in the House could come as soon as Wednesday, and as part of this deal, Social Security benefits will not be touched. But because it took so long for lawmakers to come to an agreement, those payments could be slightly delayed, and that has many American seniors who depend on these payments every month on edge. As they tell our Chris Conti, the waiting game is exhausting.
Hello, babies.
You want to show them the babies, Sonny?
Yeah.
For Claudia and John Vrabel, their golden years have come in a palette of colors. At 76, John Vrabel has found passion in gardening at his Maryland home.
Oh, I've always had a garden, and I had to work in one when I was a kid.
But these days, these two retirees are concerned with one color in particular, green.
We had to put in for fuel assistance. It's the first time in my life I've ever done anything like that.
The Vrabels are on a fixed income. They get $2,100 a month from Social Security.
There's a lot of things that we can't do because we don't have the money.
That money helps pay bills, buy groceries, pay the mortgage. But for the Vrabels and millions of other Americans, it's been a nerve-wracking few weeks. Political back and forth over the debt ceiling left them wondering if their Social Security check might be delayed.
That would kill us. I don't know how we'd manage. I mean, where are we going to get money from? You know, the only thing I can do is borrow money off the house.
This 11th hour game is striking terror in the hearts of so many.
That is Ramsey Alwyn, CEO for the National Council on Aging, and she is not happy.
It's extremely irresponsible to be playing these political games with a population that's worked hard, played by the rules.
69.1 million people receive Social Security in this country. 97% of them are seniors.
If they don't get that check on time, their sacrifice will be real.
Well, everyday Americans, I think, are already starting to see some of the pressure that this whole debt debate is imposing on the economy.
Olivia Mitchell is a professor at the Wharton School. She says the stress of uncertainty over Social Security has impacted a particular group of Americans.
If Social Security checks are delayed, it's going to affect pretty much the bottom half of the income distribution that doesn't have a lot of other retirement savings.
Her biggest advice right now, as we wait for Congress to vote on the debt ceiling, save where you can, even though default at this point is highly unlikely.
The problem with a lot of retirees is that they may have some assets, but they're not very liquid.
We got the spinach, the lettuce, the radishes. Well, these are the peas that are just barely coming up.
In the meantime, John Vrabel has started growing his own vegetables to help these two navigate rising food costs, knowing that their economic livelihoods are in the hands of Washington politicians. Chris Conti, Scripps News, Westminster, Maryland.
Fox 4 to keep you updated about what happens next. Now, if you went to the beach this weekend, you know things were picture perfect here. But while Southwest Florida's beaches may have steered clear from any major seaweed this holiday weekend, the East Coast cannot say the same. A giant belt of sargassum seaweed hit areas like Martin County just as the weekend was getting started. This sargassum risk map from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration we actually have here shows the Treasure Coast and Miami are expected to see the brunt of the sargassum washing ashore so far. Dr. Hugh is an oceanography professor with the University of South Florida and says although the seaweed takes up a lot of space, it is not toxic. So we want to bring in Fox 4 meteorologist Andrew Shipley right now because, Andrew, when people hear about sargassum, I know sometimes you're not really sure exactly what it is and should you be worried about it.
Well, and you know, in all these headlines just about a month or so ago, hey, this miles-long sargassum belts,
you freak out.
You freak out.
Yeah.
Exactly. But like we said, it's not a big issue here in Southwest Florida. A lot of the sargassum is across Jamaica, across the Lesser Antilles Islands, but even portions of Florida, like we just showed you there in Martin County, are at the medium risk, and it's very hit and miss on that coastline, these coastline. Here in Southwest Florida, we're in good shape. But what I'm also tracking for you is pretty good shape for weather here tonight. Let's take a look outside for us as you're looking at here in Cape Coral. Pretty clear skies for us. Do expect mostly clear to partly cloudy skies here through the overnight hours. 73 degrees is going to be that overnight mark for you. As for tomorrow, well, you're heading back to work, school, wherever you need to be on a Tuesday. But 90 degrees Punta Gorda, 92 Fort Myers, how about 89 Naples? You get inland looking at mid to upper 80s, but add in humidity. Feeling like mid 80s out there. La Belle, Immokalee, feeling like 94, feeling 93. Cape Coral, Sanibel, 92. So if you're going to be spending any time outdoors, take breaks, stay hydrated, you know the drill. Or if you're just going to go to the beach, not a bad day. Surf 1 foot or less, low rip current risk, though there is that chance for a few thunderstorms. Both Gulf temperatures, not bad. 84 degrees there. Let's take a look at a couple beaches here. 87 Boca Grande, 86 there Captiva. How about Fort Myers Beach? 92 degrees, though tracking afternoon storms, as well as down in Naples and Marco Island. But let's time out the day for you. Sunshine in the morning hours here, but you get in towards about 1 o'clock. That's when we'll be tracking spotty afternoon showers up along the coastline, and then that's when we'll be pretty much hanging out through about 3 o'clock hour. Then slowly working their way inland through 4 o'clock. So mainly going to be south down into Collier County for you, as well as Hendry County. But we do expect a bit of a back build towards the coastline as we get in towards the evening commute. So do watch for some storms up along I-75 through the 5, 6, 7 o'clock hour. Then sunsets, we lose the energy from the day and things should be quiet down. But we could see some pockets there upwards of an inch. So watch for some heavier downpours to mix in with that heavy rain spots tomorrow. But we do expect increasing rain chances the next couple of days. Wednesday, 70%, 90% on Thursday, and then backs off as you get in towards the weekend. So what's going on here? Got an area of low pressure. Don't worry, this is not tropical or anything like that, but it is going to bring in increased moisture to the area as we get in towards Thursday, peaking out again those rain chances. But then as it pulls away from us, well, it brings back in that dry air, very similar to what we saw this past couple of days. But speaking of the tropics, real quick, no tropical development is expected over the next 7 days. Remember, hurricane season does start on Thursday being June 1st. As for the 7-day forecast, though, I guess best chance of rain is going to be on Thursday itself, 87 degrees. Rain chances back off through the weekend, looking at 30-40% chance Saturday, Sunday, as well as Monday next week.